Welcome to our world of fiery videos, covering topics of everyday importance to print providers. Today we will cover how to optimize the quality of vector graphics.
Okay, let's talk for a few minutes about vector graphics quality. There's really two challenges with vectors. Gradients, you might have expected a gradient to look one way and it looks another when you print it, and edge detail. I have this vector. Lou told me on that webinar that it was infinitely scalable, but when I print it, it looks all jagged like this. It looks totally pixelated. What's happening here? The first thing, if you have a gradation that looks like this in the design application and prints like this, is you have banding. Basically, you have a problem with the gradation where the colors are changing too much for the amount of levels of gray that I have on my press. Two ways I can work with this. The first way, if we're designing, we can try to constrain the size of the vector. Vectors under 7 inches really tend to reduce this problem. Okay, remember the problem is that I need the tones to change smoothly over certain physical distance. If I don't have enough levels of gray over that distance, then I get these bands. So if I keep that small, that's a great solution. You're all looking at the phone saying, yes, but I don't have any control over how the designer creates their gradation. So this is just one tip. The other tip we can use for design, or for trying to troubleshoot a design, is we can try not to blend from a very dark color to white, or to a very light color. And the best practice we say here is to make sure two components are changing by at least 50%. Now you don't always have this control, but if you do have some control or way to adjust it, and you can just change the endpoints a little bit so that two colors are changing. In my example here, magenta and yellow are both changing by 50%. That's going to be a very safe gradation for me to print. Guess what? There's also a tool on the DFE we can fix this with. Fiery image smoothing that I talked about not only enhances images by resampling them so that pixelation does not occur if they're under a threshold level of pixels per inch, image smoothing also adds additional smoothing to blends and gradations. So I might have a gradation that looks like this, and I could use the image viewer tool to see this if I wanted before I printed. Turn on the image smoothing, and now it looks like this. Okay? The second problem is with edge detail. I am very serious when I say vector graphics are infinitely scalable. It's a little bit hard to show you on the WebEx since we're all looking at this on a screen, but I want to highlight the problem. The problem mainly with logos is that you didn't get a vector in the design in the first place. If you don't have an EPS or a PDF or an Illustrator or an SVG object, and even PDF's questionable whether it's really a vector, then what you have is an image. Very common for somebody to take a logo off the internet. It's not a graphic anymore, it's an image. And sure enough, when I print that image, especially if it's 72 DPI that I took off some website, it's going to look terrible in print. Okay, it's going to look very pixelated compared to printing the real vector. Okay? Incidentally, before I go on, you may, on my screen, see a color difference. So another important thing to understand is that when I create a logo that's my brand, and I define it as an EPS file or a PDF file, maybe SVG, I carefully define the colors in there, often using spot colors, so that it looks consistent from my business card to my letterhead to all the different applications of my logo. As soon as I start grabbing images off the internet, as you see here at the bottom, I'm not going to have that same rigorous treatment or definition of the color. The last problem we deal with in print, in terms of quality of vectors and images, relates to fonts and sometimes fine-line vectors. Okay? Not all controllers have the same level of control for this. There's different edge enhancement features on different firies and different digital front ends you may have for your digital presses. But I just want to show you an example what some of the firies have, which is called HD Text and Graphics. And this is just a couple before and after samples. Okay? This is a really, really hard thing to print. It even on the right doesn't look that great. But if you look at the left, when I get down to 3 and 2 point, especially in those kanji characters, I can't even read it without this edge enhancement applied. This is another good example of the HD text and graphics feature.
Thank you for watching. For additional resources and e-learning classes on this topic, visit our website. To see all recorded sessions and register for upcoming World of Fiery webinars, please visit efi.com/WOF webinars.